Hello YouTube, it is me again, Dominoid. I have got another review for you, and this time it's the second part of my EE 4G action cam review. And you do not want to know how many takes it's taken me to say that without stumbling. So how does the action cam stand up then after a few weeks use? You saw the unboxing, you saw my initial assessments on how it looks and how it operates out of the box. Now had a few weeks to play with it, and this is my more long-term thoughts on it. So far then, I've used it for some YouTube videos. You'll have seen it as camera 2 for a number of unboxings. I've also used it for some action photography. I went ziplining, and regular viewers will have seen that already. And I have used it for a number of days out as well. So I've got a lot of footage that I will be showing to you a little bit later. Most of this video will not be me sat on the sofa as usual. A few things though that I should discuss first of all. The first one is the battery life. For a device that you want to be using out in the wilderness away from power, it is important for me that this holds up. Actually, for such a small device, it's got a very, very good battery life. In almost every single case, I managed to run out of memory card space before I ran out of battery. I've taken a good 3 hours worth of footage and still have battery left, so I'm very happy with how that works. That is bearing in mind using recorded footage rather than streaming footage. I didn't do an awful lot of streaming, and more on why later. It's worth noting though that the camera does connect by Wi-Fi if you're using a viewfinder, which I was a lot. And so there is still always some form of radio communication. So I would expect there to not be a huge difference in battery life with streaming, but I would expect there to be a negative impact on the life that I saw. I was impressed though, I was happy with the battery life. It does fit GoPro accessories. The adapter in the box connects it to most of them. If you have any accessories which require the J-hook adapter, which is anything where it slots in rather than screws in, such as a chest harness, that does not come in the box. So bear that in mind. You may need to get one for some accessories. That said, you can pick up that adapter for about 99p on eBay. So it's not really a big issue, but it's one to bear in mind that you may need to buy that adapter as well as the accessory that you want to use. The other thing that it doesn't have, which was a little bit of a shame, is a tripod mount. Again, accessories are available for it, so I managed to pick up a tripod mount in a bundle of GoPro accessories online. So I've been able to connect it to a tripod, and it works quite happily as a stationary camera. You'll see that on some of the footage later on. The watch that comes with it is a very nice little touch, but it's a little bit of a gimmick. I didn't find myself using it very much because the picture quality is just too low to be of any real use in composing a shot. And quite frankly, if you're in a situation where you can't check your phone, then it's probably going to follow suit that you can't check the watch. I don't think it's an unnecessary inclusion. I think it will come in useful in some niche cases, such as underwater photography. But for my uses, I didn't find a great amount of use for it. It's probably going to gather dust for a lot of the life of this device. I'm sure the main question that most of you will have is, what is the picture quality like? Well, I've collected together a large amount of footage for you to demonstrate that, and I'll do that for you now. So what I've done here is to give a bit of a visual comparison. I've set up both the action cam and my regular HD camcorder on the same tripod. Well, actually what I've done is I've clumsily balanced the action cam on top of the viewfinder of the camcorder. But it's got the same effect. They're both pointed at me at the same time, recording the exact same footage. And hopefully from that you can get an idea as a visual comparison as to the level of quality that you get from the action cam that I shall place on the right of the screen, and the original camcorder that you're used to seeing me record videos on the left of the screen. I'll do a bit of a split screen effect so you can see how that goes. But this hopefully gives you some idea as to what level of quality you can expect when it's used as a stationary camera. So here we've got some comparison shots between the GoPro Hero and the Action Cam. Both myself and my friend went on the same specific line on the same day within 10 minutes of each other. So this is as close as we can get in terms of conditions without going tandem. Now you can see that the level of image quality is very similar on each camera. So even though it is cheaper, the Action Cam is still keeping up in terms of picture quality. For me, the colours are a bit better on the Action Cam. The grass looks a little bit more vibrant there, and the sky is a more realistic colour compared to what it was at the day. The GoPro seems to make it look a little bit brighter than it actually was, whereas the Action Cam shows overcast a bit better. One thing you'll notice here is that as my harness goes over the front of the lens, it makes a difference to the automatic brightness and white level. Not as good with changing scenes in terms of going from intense brightness to intense darkness as the GoPro is. You'll see the GoPro here is very stable in terms of how much it keeps its brightness, whereas the Action Cam, there are some scenes here where it gets confused by the fact that everything suddenly goes black. Now you can see it very clearly here as I'm getting off. The answer, of course, to that is don't get your harness in the way of your bloody shot like I did so much. But sometimes that is going to happen, so just be aware that if you're in a situation where that's going to be unavoidable, then the Action Cam may get confused. In terms of the actual resolution though, they're both very similar. The GoPro potentially has a very slightly sharper image here for some shots, but there is evidence of some compression on the GoPro images, especially towards the end here. As we start seeing the cables, there's a little bit of feathering on straight lines here. So overall, I think there's very little here that separates the two. Now, this isn't specifically designed to be a comparison of which should you buy out of the two. It's just simply a case of seeing how well the Action Cam compares to its closest competitor. And I would say it copes very, very well. So now on to general image quality. What I've done here, I've taken some shots at the National Marine Aquarium here in Plymouth to give you an idea of how it works in multiple light conditions with a lot of colour as well. So we see here I've taken some pictures directly into one of the tanks. Now you should see there on the picture there's a little flashing red light. Now that is the indicator that the camera is recording. It's not a major issue, but it's something to be aware of, that again there is that potential for reflections. If I was to retake this shot, I would probably be putting a little bit of black electrical tape over that light. Until I started taking these pictures, I didn't realize it was there. The main thing though is that it does deliver a very sharp image. Now this is in quite mixed light conditions. You can see here the difference between how dark the room is and how well lit the tanks containing the fish are. There's a lot of colour and a lot of movement in here, and it does cope with it very well. It records in MP4 format, so there is a level of compression, so you will be able to see some artifacts here, but compared to some MP4 cameras, I was very, very impressed with it. It doesn't apply an unnecessarily high amount of compression. It does apply some. You will notice it if you're looking for it, but if you're using it for things that you want to upload to YouTube, as I am, then it's unlikely you're going to see any more compression than YouTube was going to apply anyway, so that shouldn't be an issue. Now with the next scene, I wanted to show you how well it copes in low light conditions. This is the jellyfish enclosure. Now, as you can see, this is a very darkly lit area. There's not an awful lot of light on the tank. Jellyfish themselves here, actually, interestingly enough, are bioluminescent. Incredibly pretty. Really, really nice shot, which is nice to be able to share with you. But you can see here that the detail it can pick up in low light conditions is very good. I wasn't expecting a huge amount here. I was expecting it to be quite poor. Granted, it's not going to be as good as an actual night vision camera, but you wouldn't expect that. It doesn't have that sort of a mode. It certainly picks up in these low light conditions much better than I expected. You'll see here in a moment I tried to have a look to see if I can read one of the signs in almost complete darkness. It picks up a little bit of it. It's certainly not great, but to be fair, it would be unfair for me to expect it to pick that up particularly well. This last shot here from the aquarium, this is one of the larger tanks. So I step back a little bit to give you an idea of the sort of depth of field that you can get from here. So you can see here we've got a quite wide shot. I'm far back enough now that that light is no longer reflecting off of the glass. I was very lucky that nobody else seemed to come and stand in front of the exhibit for the period of this shot, so that went really, really well. But you can see here that it is a particularly wide field of vision, so you can get an awful lot in shot, which is very good if you're looking for action photography. Speaking of action photography, there's some here which was taken by my great nephew. Now this is quite a complex scene. There's an awful lot of colour and an awful lot of movement, and there's also an awful lot of changing between the brightness and depth of the background. As you can see here, we're moving between the buildings, Postman Pat there, and the ships out on the bay. So it's a shot which is generally going to be difficult for most cameras. I felt that the Action Cam dealt with this very, very well. I was very impressed with the way that it picked up the colours. It looks very, very vibrant, and you get exactly what you'd want from a scene like this from it. So yes, I'm very, very pleased with how this came out. So next, sound.
You're on candid camera. Yeah, because it's really discreet. You can't tell that I've got a camera at all. Yeah.
Is it in your glasses or on your chest?
No, it's cleverly disguised as a watch.
So you'll have noticed there that on the conversation between myself and my friends, you could hear me very clearly, but you could hardly hear them at all. You'll also have noticed at the start of this seaside scene here that you can pick up an awful lot of noise from the camera. So that's two areas where the sound falls down. It's very, very clear at picking up you. It's not very good at picking up anything around you. That's potentially intentional. It's a very directional mic. But also be aware it's very sensitive. It will pick up the wind like nobody's business, and it will pick up anything that brushes against it, such as your clothes. So if you're looking for high quality sound, you will probably want to record from a separate audio device rather than rely on the built-in microphone on the camera. The quality of that is not particularly good at all.
So that's recorded footage. There is of course the option of streaming over 4G as well. Now streaming over 4G knocks the quality down to 480p, so it is of a lower quality. This is one of the letdowns of the device for me. I didn't find the streaming to be particularly great. Now the quality, that's absolutely understandable. If you're streaming over a mobile network, you probably don't want to be streaming 1080p because it's just not going to have the bandwidth for it. That's absolutely fine. What I do find a bit of an issue though is that you can only stream through Skeagle. I'm not a fan of Skeagle, quite honestly. With Skeagle, you have the option only to stream to select people that you've chosen in advance. You don't have the option like you have with things like Twitch and Periscope to stream to the wider internet. So there wasn't any option for me to simply open a live stream to you guys. If the option was there to run a live YouTube stream, that would have been fantastic. It's not available. If the option was there to run something on Twitch, any other streaming service, that would have been fantastic. EE, of course, do own Skeagle, so I totally understand that they want to try and ask people to remain within their ecosystem. If they're going to do that, though, for me, they need to expand that ecosystem. It doesn't match the needs of everybody that's using one of these cameras, so if they really want to expand their market, then they should be expanding this software, and they may already be doing this. I haven't heard any signs to say that they are, unfortunately. So for me, streaming is a little bit of a disappointment. The other thing which many people have commented on with regards to this is that streaming is, of course, dependent on the signal that you get. Now, the kind of things that one would want to live stream
are also the kind of things that don't lend themselves to urban areas. If you are a parkour explorer, then this could be fantastic for streaming. If, on the other hand, you are a mountain biker, you're an undersea diver, or like me, you are in the heart of North Wales, hurling yourself off a mountain, then the chances are you are not going to get a 4G signal, so you're not going to be able to stream it. And what you'll end up doing is using it just like a regular action camera. You'll be recording it and uploading it separately later. Now for me, that's not necessarily a huge problem, because all I wanted to do with this camera was to record rather than live stream. But remember, the unique selling point of this device is the fact that it's the first 4G camera that you can stream from directly. So in that sense, it doesn't do what it set out to do. So overall, I think it's a really good device. Really fond of this guy. It's a great picture quality. I'm really pleased with that. I can overlook the sound quality. I can overlook the fact that the streaming isn't that useful on account of the fact that it is a solid device that records well. It lasts for a long enough time to make meaningful shots, and when you get those shots out, they are good quality picture. So as a camera, it's fantastic. All the extra bells and whistles and fluff they've added with the streaming, it doesn't work, but quite honestly, that doesn't take away from the device. I'm really pleased with that, and you're going to be seeing it in use on future YouTube videos as a stationary camera, and you'll also be seeing it on some action shots when I get my arse in gear and start trying to be fit. So that's all for this time. Thank you very much for watching. As always, please click on the thumbs up like button below. Please share this with your friends on social media and add your comments and thoughts in that comment box down there, what is below this video. And of course, please do subscribe so you can be the first to see new videos from me. In the meantime though, thank you very much for your time, YouTube, and good night. Mamma mia!